Couple of weeks ago, Nothing released a few budget devices in the Nothing 3A and the 3A Pro. Right around the exact time, we got this somewhat budget device from Apple in the iPhone 16e. And I say somewhat because it's still $600, and that's quite a bit more than the $379 and $459 price tags from Nothing. So what exactly are you getting for that price? Well, honestly, you get a lot more with the Nothing Phone 3A Pro than you do on the iPhone, and even with the regular Phone 3A. Now, I spent most of my time with the Nothing Phone 3A Pro because I wanted to focus this video on something that was closer in price point to the 16e. So right out of the gate, you'll notice the absolutely wild design that we have here. If you're a Nothing fan, or at least paying attention to other non-Apple smartphones, this design isn't that crazy, but for everyone else, it's pretty unique. I like unique. I hear a lot of people complain that smartphones are boring these days, and I think sometimes I'm saying that myself. And that's because it's true. Most manufacturers have probably already produced something that's really good, so there's not a whole lot to change year over year, maybe just a few minor tweaks. Nothing likes to spice things up a bit with the whole glyph design on the back, and while it's not new, they are making new changes and making new designs on the back. And so you get these lights that might be kind of gimmicky to most people, but it does provide you some functionality, with lights kind of giving you an indication of whether you're getting a phone call, or if you have a specific notification from a specific app, or your battery charging level, etc. So I think it's hard to argue that this is a pretty interesting function, and it's a pretty interesting feature. However, if you're a purist or a minimalist, then the iPhone 16e does have a pretty timeless design. And honestly, the one single camera here, call it what you will if you don't like it, that there's only one, I still think it makes it look really, really modern, classy, and just a straightforward classic iPhone look that I really don't mind. Now, the Nothing Phone 3A Pro is quite a bit larger than the iPhone 16e and offers a very bright and vibrant 6.77-inch display with 1300 nits of peak outdoor brightness and 3000 nits of peak HDR brightness. But for most daily use and what you'll probably see, you can max it out at around 800. Not to mention that this is an AMOLED 120Hz display, with the iPhone still stuck at 60 Hz for non-Pro iPhones. Now, going back to back here, you might have noticed that these cameras are kind of just randomly tossed around here, and it's pretty crazy, but it is another big upgrade over the iPhone in that you do have 3 cameras over just that one that I mentioned before. The Nothing Phone 3A Pro offers one periscope lens that gives you a 70mm focal length and comes in at a higher resolution, which is 50 megapixels for that specific sensor. Then you also get another 50 megapixel main sensor, and then there's an 8 megapixel ultra wide, which covers most of the focal lengths that you would need. The iPhone 16e only offers, again, one but very good 48 megapixel sensor with a 2x crop that's supposed to give you optical quality at a little bit of a 2x zoom, but I would love to hear from you as you've been seeing some of these pictures from both the Nothing Phone 3A Pro and the 16e, and then of course just some on its own with the Phone 3A. Would love to hear from you and which one you would prefer in the comments down below. Now, both phones offer some excellent battery life, with the 16e giving users, even though it's a 4005 mAh battery and it's smaller than what you get on the Phone 3A Pro, it's still so well optimized with the software that it lasts longer than phones with larger batteries, even, again, than the 3A Pro, which has a 5000 mAh battery. Now, with charging, the 3A Pro edges out the iPhone by charging to 50% in just under 20 minutes, while it will take the 16e about 30 minutes to reach 50%. Now, of course, when it comes to the software, I think this is where it's going to come down to preference, and this is where we might lose a lot of our core audience, because yes, this is an Android phone, and I don't really like highlighting Android versus iPhone at this point because, it's just going to be whatever you like. If you're platform agnostic and you don't care, the iPhone does offer Apple Intelligence features, which, love them or not, is what Apple is hoping will be a key selling point for a lot of phones moving forward. And these AI features kind of give you the AI image generation with Image Playground. You get Genmoji, writing tools, which I do find really useful, and then even the ChatGPT integration with Siri. And there's more to come, hopefully, in the near future. Now, for the Nothing phone, there's really only one feature that's kind of been advertised a lot with AI, and that feature does have a dedicated key here on the phone, just below the power button. And it's what triggers the Essential Space, where it's basically an AI-powered hub for notes, ideas, inspirations, whatever the case may be. be. And all you do is just tap it and it'll take a screenshot of whatever it is you're looking at, and you can leave a note manually, or you can long press and leave a voice note, and it'll put it all into this space for you to go back and look at it later. I think I would actually really love this if this was something that I could access across other platforms. If I'm at my Mac, or if I'm on an iPad, or whatever the case may be, this would be great. At times where I come across a post of an article or Instagram ad, something that you kind of don't need but you want to buy later on, it's a great look into what it is that you've been looking at without having to actually act on those things right away. And I like that I can easily do this from anywhere in the operating system with just a button tap. And you get immediate screenshot collections and voice notes kind of all into one, which I think is pretty cool. Now, this to me is more useful than Genmoji or Image Playground. No offense to Apple or those features, which I do like at times, but I want more AI stuff like this, where it's actually productive and useful and can kind of help me with my scatterbrain. The rest of the software differences, again, mostly just Android versus Apple stuff. Although I do really like the theme of Nothing. It's very robotic and minimal, which is kind of cool if you're into that, but you can also just change it in the preferences to be more like normal Android. But overall, that software thing, again, is just going to be whether or not you want an Android device or you want an iPhone. And if you're someone who's open to getting the most bang for your buck when it comes to software and hardware, I think that choice is pretty easy. You can either go with the Nothing Phone 3A, or you can get the 3A Pro, which are both incredible values for what you're paying, and they should definitely be considered over Apple's 16E offering. But if you want an iPhone at the cheapest price point, I still don't think most people will be upset with the 16E, assuming you don't want or need any of the extra stuff or cameras that the other iPhones have to offer. Of course, I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. Which one would you pick if you were kind of just removing platform and you didn't really care so much about, whether you have an iPhone or an Android phone? Just looking at it, I think it's pretty clear that there's a lot to offer, and a lot of other Android devices are offering a lot for less than what you'd get with this. But I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. This has been Dan with MacRumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you around in the next video.